and hello students. Welcome to another session in the same chapter. Previous session we understood about the clotting and the types of blood vessels and what is the type of the circulatory system. Now in this session we are going to look at how exactly heart is present in the circulatory system, what is its position and what are its different parts. So that will be in this particular session. Now coming to what are the different subtopics we are going to have a look in this particular session. The first one will be what exactly is heart, its position, and how is it divided in various organisms and compared to the lower ones. Now why is separation of pure and impure blood very, very important when it comes to higher vertebrates, and what is the structure of our organ and what are its different parts. So all that we are going to see in this particular session. So first one, let's look at the diagram which is given on the screen. Now this is the structure of a heart. Before we get into the aspects, what are the different parts of this particular one, let's try to understand few things about heart. Heart is a muscular organ and this is usually present in the higher organisms, especially in the vertebrates. That is the first time we come across with this particular type of structure. Now what exactly is heart? Heart is a muscular organ. The entire circulation is under the control of muscles. So we give the term a myogenic heart. Now, so first one we should understand is heart is myogenic. That is it. The muscles of the heart are the ones which control the circulation of the heart. Now what is the size of our heart? So every organism will have a different size. In humans, the size of a heart is a clenched fist. That means when you close your hand and see the fist, that will be the size of the heart. And one more thing, heart chambers. So we have to look at different chambers of the heart. Lower organisms, that is in the fishes, amphibians, reptiles, aves and mammals, there is a difference in the number of chambers of that heart. So why is it like you find these numbers different in the chambers? Now, in fishes, we have a two-chambered heart. So let's look into the aspects later. What are the two chambers we are looking at? First, we will look at it's a two-chambered heart. And in the case of amphibians, the reptiles, and these two will generally have a three-chambered heart. And in aves and mammals, that is the birds and mammals, it is four-chambered heart. Now I said amphibians and reptiles mostly have this three-chambered heart. But in the case of crocodiles, you have a four-chambered heart because crocodiles most of the time spend their life in water. So for that energy levels, we all know that oxygen levels are very less in water as compared to that of the land. So the crocodiles need much more powerful structure. So they do have a four-chambered heart. So except crocodiles, all the other reptiles do have a three-chambered heart. Now aves and mammals, all of them are four-chambered heart. Now when I say four-chambered heart, two-chambered heart, three, we should understand in a two-chambered heart, there is always mixing of blood. Because in fishes, the entire circulation is taken care of the gills, because gills are the ones which take in oxygen, get it oxygenated, the blood gets oxygenated in the gills and then it is taken for circulation. So gills play a very important role when it comes to fishes. So here two-chambered heart, the three-chambered heart as we are looking at, all of them have this mixing of blood because the chambers or the walls are not completely divided into definite partitions. But the advantage of having a four-chambered heart, so in aves and mammals, since it is a four-chambered heart, the entire septa, the walls, everything is completely divided. So it makes them very exclusive because the blood doesn't mix in any of the parts in the heart. So now you can have a look at the screen. You can see that the heart is made up of two chambers. Now what are the chambers we are looking? Four chambers and two different types of names given to that. The top two chambers, that is we call it as the right atrium and the left atrium. The two chambers at the upper level, we call it as atrium, otherwise called as auricle. Now the lower two ones, the lower two chambers, we call them as ventricles, and you have a right side and a left side. Now these are again divided by means of certain septum. So you can see here, this is the septum which actually divides the auricles, ventricles, and the right ventricle to the left ventricle. So the partitions are there in the horizontal position as well as in the longitudinal position. So what happens? The heart is completely secured with all the walls, and none of the blood which moves into the chambers are mixed. So it just maintains that particular composition. Now coming to the right atrium, left atrium, we are looking at these two. The atrium or the auricle as we call it are smaller chambers as compared to that of the ventricles. Why do we say that they have a smaller chambers? Because atrium is the region where the blood comes in from towards it. That is, the blood enters that particular position. Whereas in ventricles, the blood moves out of the heart. So the ventricles in general have a more powerful heart as compared to that of the auricles. But now coming to the two ventricles we are looking at here, the right one and the left one. Left ventricle as compared to right ventricle is much more powerful because left ventricle carries a blood vessel which pumps blood throughout the body. So the muscles of left ventricle are more powerful as compared to that of other three chambers. Now this is the introduction part. We are looking at and understanding what are the different areas of heart. Now when I said the blood should not mix, so we will be talking about certain protective measures of the heart that will be called as the valves. Now let's look at what are the different valves of the heart which is present. Now this picture represents so many valves here you can see. Now what do these valves do? Valves are something similar to the sphincters we saw in the digestive system, which will not allow the backflow of any kind of substances, just like what we saw in the digestive system. Now here we talk about blood. So the backflow of blood will be prevented by these kind of valves. Now where are the valves placed? We will be looking at here, at this diagram. Now you see a valve which is called as the tricuspid valve here. Now tricuspid means three cups or cusps. So they are three in number. So we give the term tricuspid valve. And now where is it placed? It is placed between the right side, that is the right atrium, and the right ventricle. You can see it is given here. It is placed between these two. Now this one will protect the blood flow at this particular junction. Similar to this on the left side, we have a mitral valve. Now what is this mitral valve? Mitral valve is otherwise called as the bicuspid valve. And in bicuspid valve, it is only two cups or cusps what we are looking at. So the name given here is a bicuspid valve. It's otherwise referred to as the mitral valve. So that is the name given to this particular valve. Now you have one more type of valves under the pulmonary valves. So these are called the pulmonary valves and the aortic valves they have given here. But the name for these two valves will be the semilunar valves. Now these semilunar valves are so called because they have a crescent shape and generally they are three in number. They are present at the junction of the pulmonary artery onto the right side and the aorta at the left side. So we will be looking at in detail when we look at the working of the heart. So just these are the different parts which we are looking at in the heart. Now valves. Now valves function, we understood that it is to stop the backflow of blood. And how is the pressure in the heart maintained? So all these will be maintained because the valve will let the blood slowly and more slowly and then in a continuous manner so that that particular flow is always maintained. That is how the pressure of the heart and the working of the heart occurs in a continuous manner. Now these are the different parts, and coming to some of the other things here. So the septum wall, And onto the right way atrium, there is a very, very important part which actually helps in initiating the working of the heart. Now that one we call it as a pacemaker. So we find a pacemaker in this junction. Now pacemaker is nothing but the sino-auricular node. It is called as SAN in short, and it is sino-auricular node because it is present at the atrial region. So you can also give the name sino-atrial node. Now pacemaker working and all that we'll be taking in the next session. Now sino-auricular node is the place where the heart starts doing its job for the first time. So we should understand that this is the place. Now coming to one more valve which is present at this particular portion on the right atrium, that is called as the AVN. Now AVN is present at this level, and AVN is another valve. The full form of AVN will be the atrioventricular valve. Ventricular. So AVN in short form, atrioventricular node, what we call it. Now atrioventricular node is placed at a lower level as compared to that of SAN, that is the sino-auricular node. Both of them will help for the proper functioning of the heart. Now these are all the different parts. We are looking at the heart, and the walls are separated, the septum and the pulmonary arteries, veins, all that will be taking up in the next session. So that's all for the understanding part of what are the different parts of the heart. And let's take up few questions in this particular chapter. Now coming to some of the questions we are going to look at. The first question will be, why is the sino-auricular node called the pacemaker? We just saw it because this is the place where the initiation of the heartbeat takes place. Why is there no mixing of deoxygenated blood and oxygenated blood in the human heart? That is because they are all covered by numerous septa and walls, so that the heart is completely divided into 4 chambers. So you can write it as the septa or the chambers which help you to do this. Septa or the walls will protect the chambers to be divided completely into a 4-chambered heart. Now why is the closed circulatory system more efficient than the open circulatory system? So we know from the previous years, that is when you have studied in the lower classes, you know that hearts have 2 different types of system, that is the open and closed circulatory system. Now what do you mean by this open circulatory system and closed circulatory system? Open circulatory system, seen in the case of certain lower invertebrates like the insects, they do not have any kind of blood vessels to carry the blood. So without any blood vessels, if there is a condition, it is called as an open circulatory system or an open system. Any name you can give it. Now what is with the closed? Closed system is when you have the blood vessels being carried just like what we see in our human heart, like the arteries, veins and capillaries, and blood is completely protected in those kind of vessels. So closed circulatory system, you can give the example for humans, and open circulatory system, you can give the example as the insects in this. Now why does the left ventricle possess a thicker walls than the right ventricle? This we already just had this in understanding. Now left ventricle, because it has to pump blood throughout the body. So it takes the pure blood, it gives to various parts of the body. So it has to be much thicker than compared to that of the right ventricle. Right ventricle only helps in pumping the blood outside, but this one has to reach the aorta wall that is onto the left side, will have to pump blood at a greater pressure because it has to reach different parts of the body. So that will be the answer for this one. Now coming to the next one. The mammalian heart, I said it's made out of muscles, and so the muscles always help in initiating this particular type of impulses. So here if you want to, we have to understand the mammalian heart is myogenic in function because it works on the basis of muscles. So neurogenic is in the lower invertebrates when the heart is guarded or controlled by the nervous system. Here It is controlled by the muscles of the heart. Now, next question. What are the membranes of the heart called? Heart membranes. Heart is made up of membranes which are called as the cardiac membranes. So we give the term in fact as the pericardium, and this pericardium which surrounds the heart will protect the heart from different kinds of shocks, and it is a double membrane structure, and in between the two membranes you have a fluid called the pericardial fluid. Now this fluid is exactly similar to the fluid we studied when we studied the respiratory system. That is, it also has a certain kind of fluid in its membranes which helps us to protect from the outside world. So most of the internal organs which are soft are all covered by these membranes with the fluid in between, because it absorbs the shocks whatever we see in the outside world. So it is for absorbing the shocks which come from outside or any kind of changes which happen within our body. Now these will be the questions for this particular session. So in this session we have looked at what is the structure of a heart. In the coming session we will be looking at the working of the heart, how actually heart pumps blood to various parts of the body. So that's all for now, and we will meet in the next session. Thank you.